Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Today we are finally reviewing a watch from Frederique Constant. I know, long overdue, and I apologize it's taken so long. In fact, I was scheduled to review the World Timer last year, which I almost purchased for my own collection. I changed my mind at the last moment because it was simply too big for me. Incredible watch, I loved it, but after seeing it in the flesh, it just didn't feel right for my scale, to be honest. So about a month ago, I purchased this particular model. This is the classic Index Automatic, which is very much their entry level. Well, actually, to be honest, their entry level is their even more affordable quartz pieces, which costs only a couple of $100. But so this is their entry level in terms of automatic. I thought, well, that's the best place to start, really. Now, I'll do a quick wristwatch check, and I'm wearing probably one of my favorite watches of all time, dear old Navi. I've actually decided to wear it today to kind of reacquaint myself with it. After my latest purchase, the Chronospace, I wanted to compare how it felt again wearing my Navi, and I will cover that in more detail in a later video. That mesmerizing blue. I am a Navi man through and through, and proud to say so. I just adore the Navi Timer. Quite possibly one of my top 3 favorite watches of all time. Actually, definitely top 3, which begs the question, which is my favorite watch? Oh, God knows. Anyway, let's get back to the Frederique Constant. So you're probably wondering, what on earth is the Seiko SARB033 doing here? Well, this is here for very good reason. Part of the motivation to buy the Frederique Constant, and I must make it clear, I bought it just really to review, so I'll be selling it on after this review. But I wanted to spend some serious time with this piece, get to know it, because my quest was inspired really by the SARB here. As you guys know, the SARB is being discontinued. It is unequivocally the king, the undisputed ruler of the automatics, for an everyday dress watch under $500. So it is time that I found an alternative, something around the same budget. And I wanted to see what I could get that was Swiss made for around about that kind of money. And I think we found an affordable alternative. Let's do a little bit of background on Frederique Constant, because I think it's definitely an interesting and important brand to discuss. So they are a manufacturer of luxury wristwatches based in Geneva. They were acquired by Citizen in 2017. The company itself was established by Dutch entrepreneur Peter Stas. This was in 1988, along with his wife, Aletta Stas. Quite interestingly, since 2002, the company also acquired Alpina Watches, which is a very old company from 1883. Another one I have yet to cover and will do, hopefully. I've just had a bit of trouble getting access to their watches, but hopefully one day it will happen. So the name Frederique Constant actually derives from the great-grandparent Constant Stas, happened to found a company producing watch dials in 1904. So wristwatches is very much in the founder's blood, you could say. Peter Stas is currently still the managing director, but now obviously a subsidiary of Citizen. However, they have achieved an incredible amount in such a short time. Frederique Constant has 2,700 points of sale in over 100 countries, always with a tasteful, clean, traditional style that, in my opinion, epitomizes what we think when it comes to Swiss watches. They have an annual growth rate of 25% and doubling, in fact, in the last 3 years alone, which is very impressive indeed. They also have quite a sizable manufacturing facilities in Geneva, in which from 2001 they produced or have been producing their own in-house movements. Some of their achievements include the capabilities of manufacturing their own silicon escape wheel. In 2008, they produced their very first tourbillon, which is an incredibly grand undertaking. Now, to this day, Frederique Constant produces over 15 fully in-house manufactured movements, in addition to their mainstream line of ETA-powered watches. One of my personal favorite achievements of theirs is the World Timer that I mentioned earlier, launched in 2012 and has a very unique mechanism. It's entirely adjusted solely via the crown. So the World Timer function is used by selecting the desired city and placing it at the 12 o'clock position on the dial, and then internal discs automatically synchronize after that. So it's possible to see the world time in any 24 cities on the dial at one time. In addition, these thin discs also indicate at a glance whether it's day or night, with differentiating colors. So white disc for day and black for night. And you can see why I was so intrigued and almost so close to buying one myself. Their more recent achievements include, in 2015, they actually released a horological smartwatch, which included motion and sleep tracking function and uses a secondary analog dial rather than a screen to display its information, giving the timepiece the classic look of a watch we all know and love. And the lack of a display screen also provides significant power saving. And they continue to push innovation with smartwatch technology right up to this very year. In fact, in 2018, Frederique Constant revealed the world's first mechanical smartwatch, which is a hybrid. Basically, it looks like a regular watch, although it fuses smartwatch technology into the mechanical movement, so you get all the information shared to your phone. In fact, the watch we're reviewing today has a little bit of that smartwatch technology incorporated into the strap. So as you can see, a company that has achieved so much in a remarkably short amount of time. So let's get the basic specifications out of the way. We'll start with dimensions. The diameter is 40 millimeters. We got a height of 10 millimeters, very nice and thin. Lug to lug is 46.8, well, 47 millimeters. And the lug width is 20 millimeters. So a very contemporary size, very nice and slender. The case itself is stainless steel. We have a high polish, entirely high polished. And if you remember the unboxing, I was slightly disappointed. But actually, now I've come to know this piece, I think it works very well. We have a smooth bezel there, a very slightly domed sapphire glass. The crown at the 3 o'clock, it is signed. It's not a screw down. The water resistance is 50 meters, but for an everyday dress watch like this, it's absolutely fine. We have an absolutely gorgeous dial with that sunburst effect with a slight grainy texture to it. It's remarkably graceful and understated. The grey is well, sometimes it looks rather blue, and other times it looks rather green. Beautifully applied faceted markers for the hours, nicely framed date window at the 3 o'clock, beautiful Dauphine hands with superluminova. The luminescence is not very impressive, unfortunately, with a double dot at the 12 to assist orientation. Branding and automatic, and then Swiss written at the bottom at the 6 o'clock, very subtly in a crisp white, as is the minutes track running around the outside. There is a double applied marker at the 12. The shape of the case is quite kettle shaped. It's got a really nice curvature to it. The lugs are fairly straight, and they're relatively short. The crown sits slightly, ever so slightly nestled into the case. And then we have the case back, which is just a solid stainless steel screw and case back with the basic information engraved and printed. There's nothing overly ostentatiously engraved there. And it comes on a croco calf black leather stitch strap. And I must admit that the leather is very nice quality. And then integrated between the actual signed buckle there and the strap is what's called the E-strap. So underneath you have a little sensor that obviously is in contact with your skin, measures all kinds of information. So it's essentially a Fitbit, and it's a really nice way of integrating it. You don't have to wear a secondary device. Very clever, very subtle, and also I should point out, The actual cushion in the watch box is the charger, the USB charger that charges the little thing, and this off one charge will run for a week. However, there is one major downfall of this, and we'll discuss that at the negatives towards the end. So inside we have the FC303, which is basically a Sellita SW200. It's a clone of the ETA 2824, slightly improved, nuanced version of the ETA. They changed some of the tooth profiles, and it just generally performs a little bit better. It has a 38-hour power reserve. It's the basic undecorated version. 26 joules, operates at 28,800 vibrations an hour. In the first position, we get manual wind. If I pull out the crown, the second position, you can see we have quick set. And if I pull it out all the way, it's also hackable. You see the seconds hand has stopped. In terms of accuracy, well, unfortunately, there's not much to write home about. Now, this movement is capable of fantastic results. However, with this particular one, I'm getting about plus 12. Not the end of the world, and certainly capable of much better performance if regulated. It's a very solid, reliable movement, and we'll discuss a little bit more about it in the positives and negatives. I think the main attraction of this watch is undoubtedly that dial. The grey is very particular. It's a nice change from your typical black and cream dial or the standard go-to colours. It's a very alluring grey, resplendent and refined look to it. I love how it plays with the light. And I got to say, the applied numerals too, they are also quite playful and bewitching in their own way. The first thing a watch enthusiast will probably think looking at this is that it reminds you of the Patek Philippe Calatrava. In my opinion, the dial layout very much is similar to the reference 5127, although that reference obviously had the crown guards. But if you look at the dial layout, it is very similar. But bear in mind, those are about 20 grand. The case itself is very reminiscent of the 5227. Again, slightly smaller at 39mm. Those are about 30 grand. Stylistically, it takes a lot from the Calatrava, but it doesn't homage it directly. It's still very much kind of between references, and it has its own kind of scale and proportions. It's inspired by, but it's not just a blatant one-on-one copy. There is some very nice little subtle differences there. So let's pop this on the wrist and see how this bad boy wears.
A few moments later.
So there you go. Now on my 6¼ inch wrist, I do feel it wears too large. It's extremely slender, and I really do, well, I say extremely for a watch with this particular movement. If you want a very thin watch, you get, you know, like a Vacheron Patrimony or something, that's going to cost a hell of a lot of money. But for an automatic at this price range, it is very slender. As a dress watch, it functions perfectly. It has a very appealing charm, that alluring play of light as you move it. It's quite captivating, I must say. The weight is 59 grams, so very light indeed. It's too large for my 6¼ inch wrist. And I have to say, the little device, the E-strap, is not cumbersome. You don't even notice it's there. So a really great way of integrating smart technology. I do approve, and I have to say it functions very well indeed. The app which you get is very intuitive and easy to set up. It's extremely comfortable. The curvature of the lugs, even for my tiny little girly wrist here, does work perfectly fine. However, there are some negatives, and actually let's get into the positives and negatives now. Let's start with the positives. Well, it's amazing value. It's undeniable. It's great to see another alternative to your standard entry-level Swiss brands like Tissot, Hamilton, etc. I think Frederique Constant offers a hell of a lot of quality for the money. It's beautifully made. I can't spot anything wrong with the actual quality of the watch. It has a very classic look, that quite refined feeling. It's certainly going to age well, much like the Calatravas it borrows from or is inspired by. It'll be timeless, no pun intended. It's also worthy to point out there are other versions available. There's white dial, black dial, there's a rose gold plated version, and there's even a dial with a rather splendid Claude de Paris pattern on the dial with applied Roman numerals. I think it's also important to point out that it's very inexpensive to maintain this movement, certainly compared to its luxury haute horology counterparts. I think also it matches formal attire very, very well. This would work wonderfully with a, Prince of Wales pattern suit or a nice tweed jacket or something like that. If you're after a dress watch, you don't wear dress watches that much, but you want something smart, that does exude class, but without breaking the bank, because perhaps, like me, I really don't see the justification spending massive amounts of money on a dress watch for something I don't wear that often, then this is a great Swiss-made option, and I do feel it offers a lot. It's certainly a viable alternative to the king of this price range, what you get from Seiko. It's a great first step into Swiss watches. And despite the brand being relatively young, they have achieved so much quite astounding and worthy of respect. So it does have some horological prestige to the name. So let's talk about the negatives. Well, first of all, I got to say the size, I would have loved it to be a 38. If we just put it side by side with the real crowd pleaser, the king of this particular price range as an everyday watch, I would have loved to see it a 38 like the SARB033. I think that would have been absolutely perfect. However, for a lot of people, this 40mm size is going to be just fine. So if you have the wrists for it, I congratulate you. It's you're really going to love this, but definitely not for the smaller wristed. Now, the biggest negative for me was the actual E-strap. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a marvelous idea. I think it's extremely great way to introduce smartwatch technology into a traditional mechanical watch. Without being too intrusive, without having to need a second device. But there's one problem, and it's got to do with the genre of the watch. Now, this is true of all Frederique Constant watches. They don't really do sports watches. Now, the time I want to wear a smartwatch is predominantly when I'm going to be exercising, because I exercise every day, I do my cardio. I'm not going to be wearing this watch, and certainly not a leather strap. So for me, it was completely wasted. Real shame. I do like the leather strap. I just wish that, unfortunately, when you remove this from the pins here, there's no way to attach the buckle onto the strap. So I had to use my own strap. This is a genuine crocodile emerald green strap. So this is what I was wearing with it. That was a big shame for me. I didn't get the most out of the E-strap experience. In fact, I didn't get anything out of it, because this is, for me, I'm a sports watch guy, so this is not an everyday watch for me. If I was going to an office or suited and booted every day, then this probably would have been more useful. However, if you're not into exercise and you do wear this kind of style of watch every day, then obviously the E-strap is going to be for you. Talking of my little strap here, I did find this watch rather difficult to pair with other straps. It didn't really work with, well, it certainly will not work, in my opinion, with a NATO strap. I know that's surprising, because I tend to put everything on NATO straps. It's such a formal looking watch to me. I just didn't feel right on the NATO strap. Can work with Perlons, doesn't really work with certain vintage straps, which are, the collar rebs, in my opinion. Some of the collar rebs will work. So it wasn't as versatile as I would have liked it to be. Certainly not as versatile as dear old Saab there. My last complaint really is the crown. After wanting to top it up, after not wearing it for a few days, it's not because I'm wearing gloves. I mean, with an ungloved hand, it is difficult to grip. and quite an annoyance to. It actually hurts your fingers to use the crown. Not so much when it's popped out all the way to set the date or the actual time. It's quite easy, but when it's recessed, because of the shape of the case, you don't really get that much purchase on the crown itself. The only other negative really is its rather mediocre performance, but you can't expect chronometer level when you're paying, I think I paid about $4.50 for this, so it's to be expected. But like I said, it's very easy to regulate. You know, take it to your watchmaker, have it regulated, or you do it yourself if you're brave enough. But generally, an outstanding watch. It's a very good looking piece. A worthy alternative to the SARB, or if you've got Patek Calatrava taste but you don't have the Calatrava money, then this is a great way to go. My wife also really liked it, which is always a good sign. I mean, it is good taste. I mean, it's impeccably conservative, very restrained. You could almost say perhaps a little bit boring. I know a lot of people said that when I reviewed a Patek Calatrava. They said, wow, that's a lot of money for a very understated watch. But anyway, that's a whole other argument. But I have enjoyed my time with it. I certainly am keeping Frederique Constant on the radar. I'd love to review some of their more higher end, with the in-house movements. And if I can, I'll get that world timer in and really have a good look at it. Don't forget to leave your opinions and comments below. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and found it useful. And as always, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao.